Hunter Biden has been indicted on gun charges. But does this mean the walls are closing in on the Bidens, as the Democrats used to say about Trump? Not so fast. Now, a grand jury delivered the indictment Thursday U.S. time against President Joe Biden's son, Hunter, over allegations he unlawfully owned a gun while addicted to drugs. That's a big no-no. The indictment, brought by special counsel David Weiss, included 3 charges against Hunter Biden related to gun possession. And now, on one level, it might look like the special counsel has gone hard here. He's hit Hunter with not 1, but 3 charges. But keep this in mind. Of all the crimes and misdemeanors that Hunter stands credibly accused of, the tax business, the funny money, the foreign agent registration charges, gun possession and lying that he wasn't on drugs when he applied for a gun license is the only thing that does not have the potential, if investigated further, to trace back to his dad. As Donald Trump posted on his social media platform, quote, "This, the gun charge, is the only crime that Hunter Biden committed that does not implicate crooked Joe Biden. The Democrats, with all of their horrible, very unfair, and mostly illegal witch hunts, have started a process that is very dangerous for our country." That's Donald Trump. And indeed, you don't have to like Donald Trump to know that he's right about that. But now on to the other big news of the night. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has finally pulled the trigger and is launching an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden.
That's why today I am directing our House committee to open a formal impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. This logical next step will give our committees the full power to gather all the facts and answers for the American public.
It's a controversial, but I think correct move for reasons I'll get to in a moment. But of course, because it's an impeachment of Joe Biden we're talking about, well, much of the media, which is in an abusive relationship with the White House that treats them like dirt, is covering for him. The Associated Press led the way, saying the impeachment was proceeding, quote, without evidence. But I mean, honestly, as the old country song says, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? This was a theme of much of the coverage since the announcement, and the White House, of course, wasn't giving much up either.
Karine, can you describe how President Biden reacted to the impeachment decision by the...
I don't have anything to share about the president's reaction to this.
And when pressed by one of the few curious journalists in the White House press corps, Karine Jean-Pierre decided to pull the pin on the whole thing.
And with that, folks...
Can you explain why the president interacted with so many of his son's Ford business associates? More than half of voters told CNN they believed the president was involved and he lied. You can't have a response to that, Karine?
Now, frankly, I thought a much better performance was given by Congressman Scott Perry, who was confronted by a foreign journalist about the impeachment and the supposed lack of evidence.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I just ask, what actual evidence do you have as opposed to allegations to show to the American public that would merit an actual impeachment inquiry of Joe Biden?
We have the bank accounts. We can see, ma'am, you can see that the homes that the Bidens own can't be afforded on a congressional or Senate salary. You also understand that it's not normal for family members to receive millions of dollars from overseas interests. Those things aren't normal. That's not normal to have 20 shell companies. These things are not normal, and it alludes to not only just widespread corruption, but money laundering, if not influence peddling itself. And we also have the president, the vice president at the time, on record saying that the prosecutor was fired. Well, son of a bitch, the prosecutor was fired, right? Because the prosecutor was going after the company that his son was working on. That's what we have.
But as the saying goes, the ignorant shall not be instructed. For a media that went all in on making Joe Biden president, it's like being in a cult. If the world doesn't end tomorrow, well, they'll be doubly sure it's going to end next week. And this is why, as good as an idea as it is that they have to do this impeachment, this is also a big trap for the Republicans. Because believe me, I watched them step on this rake all through the Clinton administration in the 1990s. If the media isn't behind you on an impeachment, politically, it's probably going nowhere. I know that's not fair, but them's the breaks. Remember again, in the 1990s, Republicans decided they were going to try to evict Bill Clinton from office essentially because he lied about his affair with Monica Lewinsky and gave a bad name to cigar aficionados all across the country. Well, the media didn't care because they loved Bill Clinton and his aw shucks charm and, of course, the fact that he was not a Republican. And the impeachment didn't catch fire with the American public because, well, I mean, come on, everyone knew that old Bill was a hard dog to keep on the porch. With Trump, of course, it was different. The media hated him. The Washington Post even fired the starting gun on his impeachment process the very day he was sworn in. Yet even with that Herculean effort, 2 impeachment attempts failed. Trump was, of course, booted from office, but the attempts to frame him on a Russian collusion hoax were dwarfed by everything from the 2020 Summer of Love riots to the COVID pandemic. And this is why impeachment is such a risky move. It generally doesn't wind up going anywhere. And these days, it is increasingly seen as partisan and a parliamentary procedure used as a tactic by whichever party is in opposition. And yet, has to happen, because if the American system is to be salvaged, if the country is to be rescued from falling into third world despotism where corrupt ruling families fill their boots while trying to chuck their enemies in jail, then yes, Biden must be impeached. Again, let's go through a very top-level outline of what we know. $20 million in payments via shell companies to various Biden family members. $1 million a year paid by Burisma to Hunter, and the firing of the Ukrainian prosecutor who was investigating that company after the then vice president decided to threaten them with foreign aid. Then another Russian oligarch wiring millions to the Bidens and somehow avoiding being put on the Russian sanctions list. Then there's Hunter's business partners and associates. They met in the White House over 80 times when Biden was VP. Then there's all the WhatsApp messages, 10% for the big guy, documented informants and whistleblowers saying that Joe heavied companies into paying millions or that his name was invoked to get cash. And more informants who said that IRS and other investigations were nobbled from the very start. Joe Biden, according to those who know him, dreamed of being the patriarch of a wealthy, political Irish Catholic family like the Kennedys, and saw parallels in the tragedies the Bidens and Kennedys suffered. But Joe was never smart or suave enough to pull off monetizing office for generational wealth. And so here we are, with a deadbeat son, a president showing early signs of dementia, and a whole lot of receipts for, well, we don't know exactly, but we should. Bill Clinton may have been impeached for his personal life. Trump was impeached on a hoax perpetrated, ironically, largely by Bill's wife Hillary. But this, the charges and evidence against the Bidens, is all too real and too important. And here's hoping Kevin McCarthy gets on with the job.